Welcome back again to HCT DreamHack Grand Prix Montreal. It's going to be round number 8, and we're going to start kicking people out of the tournament now. 3 losses and you're pretty much done, and this is the round where that starts to happen. So we're going to be concentrating on the 5 and 2s. If your favourite's 7-0, don't panic. You'll see them again. They're in the top 16. Calm down. Someone else who's pretty good at calming down with me for the first time in a few hours is Mr. Firebat himself. How's it going, man?
Good, glad to be back. I was able to get a few naps in during my time waiting. We've had some really long rounds this DreamHack. Typically rounds will go, you know, hour and a half. We've had some solid 2.5 hour rounds. It's I think it's more of an aggressive meta than a control meta typically, but just the few control decks, when they clash, holy smokes, are those some long games.
Yeah, that round 6, I mean, we didn't even see what happened in those first 2 games, but the Monsanto match versus Plants, that just went on, and Plants took it down in the end 3-2, so Monsanto should have just given up at 2-0 in the first place. It saved us all a load of time.
No, he almost came back. He almost was able to reverse sweep with the token druid. Yeah, I think, honestly, Monsanto kind of felt that maybe Plants was a little bit shaky when the camera was on him. And, you know, that's why he looked as calm in that series as he did, and that's why he kept playing. The camera adds a lot of stress and a lot of tension, and players that don't play under the camera all that often can find themselves, you know, maybe throwing some games, maybe finding unable to close a series out. Yeah,
you see that a lot, and I think people watching at home hear us say that and they think we're just making it up, but you talk to any player who's there for the first time and then you talk to them again after their second time, and even that one experience makes so much difference.
Yeah, I remember way back when, in one of my first on-camera tournaments, I mulliganed this wonderful card called Innervate before it was nerfed.
You don't want that.
Yeah, it gave you 2 free mana crystals, so it was like the best card in the game at the time, and I just threw it away. And
how did that go?
I lost. Camera pressure, it's real. It's something that these players have to deal with, and it just keeps building as the days go on.
So loads of pressure on the players at the top. Let's have a look who those players are at the top of the standings right now, though, and have a look exactly how this tournament is panning out. First, really good look at the standings. Orange and Fino there sitting at the top of the tree, 7-0. They are in. They've got no more panicking to do. They've got to play each other. That'll be a fun match, though, under those situations.
It will be a good match. I've been really impressed with Orange's play on camera. He's had some back-to-back series on stream. It's just seemed very few mistakes. The only criticism I'd have is maybe he's playing a little bit too safe, whereas Fino's maybe just the opposite. He gets in winning positions, and it felt like he was taking maybe too many risks when he was playing against purple.
Yeah, I think Fino's had to teach himself not to care too much about things, because he used to get very uptight, and now he just very free and makes a lot of good decisions. Want to highlight a couple of others that we haven't seen much of. Gallon has just quietly got to 6-1. Very confident player.
Yeah, very good.
QWERTY97 has made quite a few good results recently and hasn't had the chance to shine on stream many times. Maybe we'll get a chance to show him later if he gets one more win. Secretly or sneakily doing very well in American LAN events. Obviously, Hunter Ace goes without saying. Saiyan, Muzzy, all these strong players, but having a look through the others, Sayun is up there again, last year's runner-up. He's made 4 top 16s already since that, and we kind of ignored him last year because he was playing Muzzy in the final when Muzzy was sealing his last call, and we're like, yeah, it's Muzzy versus a guy.
Yeah.
Turns out the guy's really good at Hearthstone. Recently had another top 16 in Oakland, so Sayun, if he can get those 2 wins, we'll see him in yet another top 16.
That would be a very impressive achievement.
So the next game up is going to be Bloody versus PNC. Right. First of all, let's have a look at the other players who are still hanging in there in this tournament. This is the one without the results by the sides, but if your favourites in there, the nearer the top left they are, the better they're doing. And as you can see, there are plenty of people in there.
The people in the bottom right corner, do they just have no chance of making it to the top 16 then?
I don't know for sure, but it's likely they're out of it at this point. Plenty of regular names down there, though. Pizza, Killing All Day, Run, Mitsuhide, all these people. Well-known Hearthstone players on the scene and on Twitter and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can win. Some people do have to go home.
Yeah, really?
Really?
That's a real shame, isn't it? Like, it's just we could all win at once.
No. The participation trophy garbage. No.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's people. They start doing that in America. When you just show up, you get a little badge and a certificate.
Might start entering American events. I mean, the wrong ones.
Yeah, it ruins the competition.
But yeah, plenty of players still plugging away in the tournament there. And sometimes, for some of the names you didn't know maybe so much at the bottom right, coming to your first DreamHack, playing it out, getting to maybe bump into a pro in round 8, even if you're on 3-4 or something. Very good for the experience when you come back to your next one.
Yeah, you definitely want to try and get as much experience as you can. And we were talking about how people get shooken up on camera the first time. You don't want the first time you're on camera to be, you know...
Yeah, you versus Orange or some massive name in like you've never played a DreamHack, let alone on camera.
Yeah, it just, as much experience as you can get, it can't hurt at all. And then, you know, the org starts seeing, hey, this guy's got experience. He's been to a bunch of DreamHacks. Maybe let's try picking up this guy.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about Monsanto doing that, but I think all of you pros do that. You see the players new, and it's like, yeah, I'm just not going to concede. I'm going to make them find that last 1 point of damage. Even though I can see how they can beat me, I'm just going to pretend I can't see that lethal.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes you see like their hands shaking, their player that you're going up against, or they seem really nervous or something. So then you just give them that little emote, and then they start panicking even more, and you can kind of play with it sometimes.
And going into that, we have got Bloody versus PNC. Bloody has been a strong... He's been around the Hearthstone team for a very long time. Used to do casting with Bloody 2 or 3 years ago on like Chinese Hearthstone. Bloody often doing bits and pieces to do with, you know, organisation stuff, but a competitor here in his own right today and going very well at 5-2. Let's have a look what they have brought. Let's see what Bloody and PNC have brought to the table. Let's see what's been banned. And then we'll talk about PNC, who is having almost a fantastic year, but keeps getting knocked out of like top 8 and just, he nearly made it through into championships and just can't quite get that last win.
Yeah, I've definitely seen his name floating around a lot, and they have some similar decks here and then some very different decks. For example, PNC bringing some of the more controlling archetypes. We see him with the Togwaggle Druid and with the Even Warlock, whereas Bloody on the other side is having the Zoo and the Odd Rogue, but they both share the same Tempo Mage.
Okay, so completely different, even though it looks like a mirror match. And Tempo Mage, we haven't seen much of that this tournament, but with all the Quest Rogue floating about, you know, sort of would expect there to be more of it near the top, because at the top there is a lot of this Quest Rogue.
Yeah, you would expect there to be a lot more of it. It's been a deck that just consistently performs pretty well. It's not going to be like your top tier, this is your first choice kind of bring. But when you have to bring 4 classes, it starts to navigate to that maybe position. And a lot of players are saying that it's very, very good. And some players are saying, nah, it's overhyped and what have you. Just because they believe the Druid hard counters it so well. But it's been picking up wins against Druid occasionally. And some people argue that the stats that Druid beats it all the time aren't actually all that accurate. APX Void is a person that will tell you he has a fairly good win rate against Druid on ladder with Tempo Mage.
He always has a good win rate. Just to remind you guys, you can vote for who you think is going to win. Both easy enough to spell, so no excuses this time around. I see you going for the short option at the moment. Don't be so lazy.
Well, I would have to say that PNC is the more known player of the two. Yeah,
PNC is having a terrific year for sure. There we go. Let's sort that out quickly.
I feel like you're controlling the votes somehow.
That would be awful, man.
No, they changed with everything we said, right? Like,
go for it,
like, oh, that says a shorter name. Well, that's gone now.
Now we'll never know how to control the votes. So, talking of controlling the votes, who do you think's going to win this match?
I think Bloody is going to have an advantage lineup-wise. He's got the aggressive decks coming against a Tog Druid and a Quest Rogue, which just seem like they kind of fold to some of the aggressive decks. I have to imagine PNC has been finding ways to beat the aggressive lineups because he's still here, isn't he?
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of players with the aggressive lineups. But yeah, I believe in aggro. You know, that's my bread and butter. So I'm going to vote for Bloody on this one.
He's going to hate me for it, but I'm going to pick PNC. He was playing Quest Rogue at top 300 on ladder before Giggling Inventor existed.
Okay, that's
so this is a deck that he is really comfortable with, and I feel that if he can do it then, I think that he'll get this Quest Rogue to carry him through against pretty much anything right now. So I'm going to go for PNC.
All right.
Let's see how the final results were. Let's see which one of us is right. And it's you.
Wow, pretty close.
The second you picked the vote and I picked the other way, it's like, oh my goodness.
Well, I have not gotten wrong on a single prediction yet.
Yeah, I've only got it wrong twice. Out of 2.
Oh, okay. Well, it's close.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
You're only 2 off.
I always let you go first, and I feel the need to argue with you, I guess.
Sure.
Is a problem I have.
I mean, that's fair. Better commentary that way, right?
Yeah. I'll agree with when I feel the need. I had to agree with Dr. J earlier. That went well. And so we are going to get into the game shortly. PNC, as we've been saying, having a very nearly fantastic year. And I think a very nearly fantastic year is still pretty good in Hearthstone these days. don't have to be Hunter Ace to win everything to do reasonably well out of the game now with the new prize structuring and team points and all that good stuff going on.
Nah, you can't settle for anything less than the best, Lorinda.
Participation prizes.
No participation prizes here. You're either first or you're last.
That's not how it works. There's a top 16 and there's an 8. Yeah, that's how it works on the caster desk, because there's 2 of us, so one of us is first and I'm last. But other than that,
you gotta have the killer instinct. You gotta get mean. You gotta get angry.
Coming soon on stream, Firebat trains Lorinda to win a game of Hearthstone.
So he's confident with the quest stroke, confident enough to open with it, or he feels
maybe that's not confident.
This isn't going to win a game, so let's get it out of the way for some scouting.
That seems more likely, right? You get in your weakest deck first in last hero standing, and that way you can at least try and get your counter cues ordered correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have seen Fino just take down Zoo with Quest Rogue. We've seen him take down everything with Quest Rogue Fino. And there is one of the key cards in the matchup, the Vanish, which means that PNC should have some time to draw some better cards and get his stuff established at least.
Yeah, without a preparation and without too much early game going on, it's still not looking that great for him. Usually, in order for the Quest Rogue to win, they need to draw both copies of Vanish, which is unlikely to have happened. I would say the matchup win rate is like 60 to 65% in favor of Zoo, which is absurd in Hearthstone.
It is absurd, but it's still only 60 to 65%. When we talk about these polarized matchups, people seem to think at home, oh, it's 90 versus 10. It just isn't anymore.
It's not, yeah. It's definitely possible for the Quest Rogue to overtake the Zoo. It's just not very likely, and especially with this opening from Bloody here, just 8-8 worth of stats coming out onto the board almost immediately. He does have the Glacial Shard to slow a lot of this pressure down. Typically, as the Zoo, your best option is to go as wide as possible to make yourself less vulnerable to the taunts of Giggling Inventor, the taunts of Wax Elemental, and the Glacial Shard. But, you know, you can't really pass up the power of the Doubling Imp there.
Yeah, and PNC, it really is all about stalling and hoping as the Quest Rogue, but it's a hope with a cause, you know? And
he's got a anti-control version of the Quest Rogue, I would say. He's running double Stone Tusk Boar, which is not been standard throughout the course of the tournament, and he has 0 copies of the Wax Elemental. Wax Elemental is a powerful card against Zoo because it's a taunt that absorbs 2 attacks. So
yeah, which is a lot of healing.
Yeah, so it's got less defensive options than you would probably like for the matchup. So I think that makes it even further in favor of the Zoo.
So here he decided not to go with a Glacial Shard, presumably so that if he can find a bounce, he gets to use it multiple times to absorb even more damage.
Yeah, you're going to have to bounce that. That's his sole goal right now, is to figure out ways to bounce that Glacial Shard. Cycling the fan to try and find something, and the second fan is a disappointing sight. He did not feel good about playing the first fan. He's going to feel even worse about having to spend 3 mana to play the second fan. At
least he'll be able to play it alongside something next turn. Maybe that deck hand will just have to...
Alongside a bunch of tears.
Wow. But as it transpires, Bloody hasn't got a huge amount to do on this turn, although those Light Wardens with Voodoo Doctor in hand look pretty scary right now.
Yeah, the Light Warden seems good. Even just getting down the Void Walker to potentially stop one of the charging minions from trading up into the 4-3, it can be really powerful. Taunt protecting your board is pretty good as an aggressive deck.
Yeah, especially when this deck, the Rogue, does rely on using tiny minions for any sort of damage it's going to do.
That's not preparation.
Mimic Pod is a card that people look at cutting in when they're trying to find new slots in Quest Rogue.
It's a card that is one of the highest win rate cards against Druid and Control Warrior, which are matchups that you kind of already win anyway. So that's why a lot of the times it kind of gets cut, because against the aggressive decks, it does little to nothing, but it is so powerful against Druid and Control Warrior that if you cut enough of the cards that are good in those matchups, you might find yourself struggling against some of the Malagos Druids or the Token Druids, because your quest completion gets dramatically slowed down by cutting Mimic Pod.
Yeah, and you definitely, I think you see one cut from time to time. I don't think anyone's gone the whole way yet and gone with both cuts. Yeah,
the standard list that we've been seeing throughout the course of the tournament, I would say most people are bringing 1 Stone Tusk Boar, 1 Mimic Pod, 2 fans, and 2 Elven Minstrels with the double wax in it. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you can build this deck. It's kind of interesting to, you know, compare all the different tech choices.
Well, PNC is pretty much done with using his health as a resource.
Yeah.
He's now using his face as a punching bag instead.
12 damage on the board. No play in the hand for PNC. That it looks at all good.
He has spent so long trying to get this Glacial Shard some bouncy friends, and they just haven't showed up to the party at all. Giggling Inventor from the Mimic Pod. If he had some way of playing this down twice, that might have been enough, but he's just going to get absolutely smacked this turn.
Yeah, he's going down 2-5 at the best case scenario for himself there. So he does have the Gigglings to kind of try and stall out. That'll put him down to 1. You do that so that you have the Soulfire as an out if Giggling Inventors do happen to come out.
Yeah, that stops the weapon from doing anything. Might as well not have that.
It lowers your opponent's options by so much.
Yeah.
They vanish the board. They could die to Doomguard, Soulfire, Life Drinker. We actually, curiously enough, see no Life Drinkers in the list for Bloody. He is playing a Spellbreaker instead of the Life Drinker. One of the few players still playing Spellbreaker in the Zoo Warlock. A tech choice that kind of moved out of Zoo and was replaced with other options.
More things.
More things. You know, you have Doubling Imps, so you play Doubling Imps and Blood Knights usually, but sticking true to the Spellbreaker. I think it's pretty good tech for the tournament so far with, you know, the Death Rattle Hunters milling about.
Do need to keep attention on this. I mean, it looks for all the world like it's over, but there is no direct damage in the hand for Bloody, although he can find it through tapping. And PNC does have the Valera and the Glacial Shards and the Gigglings, so there's life there yet.
Yeah.
You don't think he should tap?
Yeah, I like this play so much better. Just reload the board, let the draws come naturally. Spending your mana, investing it into more card draw when you have this size of a hand is a little bit silly. You could, sure, win on the spot immediately, but you also put your opponent in a spot where they need exactly the second Vanish if you just redevelop. So I think it makes a lot more sense just to keep putting pressure on the board, try and set up a board that, you know, can maybe get through Giggling Inventor the best you can. Forces that your opponent is on the back foot.
Looks like PNC is going to be able to shut down the Doomguard options for the foreseeable future, at least with these Gigglings and Glacial Shards.
Yeah.
That'll give him 2 turns to survive, and then he's out of Soulfire range as well if he gets to Valera. And then maybe he even gets to get the Scale Hide. I mean, these are all maybes. There's a long route back. He needs that second Vanish as well.
It could work. It could work. There's no Despicable Dreadlord in the deck list from Bloody, so he doesn't have to worry about these Glacial Shards getting blown off by the end of turn effect of that creature, so he can just leave them out on the field afterwards. He's kind of debating whether or not he maybe wants to go for completing the quest on the Giggling Inventor or completing the quest on the Glacial Shards, I think, at this point. Both seem like a fairly viable option. What
a world we live in where you can complete the quest with Giggling Inventor. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Giggling Inventor is a crazy card. He knows there's a Fungalmancer in the hand. So a little odd in the choices of freezing there.
Yeah, could have picked with them spaced apart, so the Fungalmancer only gets 1 active buff.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because they're taking off the Divine Shield.
Yeah, exactly. But it is still maybe a little bit curious. He wants to have damage on those 2 left minions, I guess.
That's the Doomguard, but because of this turn, that's not getting through this time. And not next time either. If this Soulfire doesn't come soon, this game gets interesting.
Yeah, he's got to try and get the Soulfire before 9, so his options are now either to tap and look for it, as well as other options like the Spellbreaker, or to then try and just develop things onto the board. And he chooses to go tap this turn because he doesn't have the board space to spend all of his mana developing, so he really doesn't have the other option there. He has to kind of tap.
Just to point out, if he hadn't frozen those 2 minions, PNC would be just in a world of pain.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a fairly good point that I missed there. I missed that the Blood Knight was what he was playing around there by freezing the minions like he did. Very smart by PNC. There is a 1 of Blood Knight in Bloody's deck, and he played around it quite expertly.
Quest Rogue players are strange individuals.
It's a hard deck to pilot perfectly.
I think to get good at it, you have to be determined to get really good at it. Nobody seems to get fairly good at Quest Rogue. They either give up after like 100 games, or they just keep playing it because they love it.
It's a really fun deck to play. You can do a lot of cool, wacky combos, especially late game with Valera, and there's so many different infinite combos that you can pull off.
My favorite combo is where you queue it up, and the opponent queues up Warrior, and then they explode, and you play the next game. Because they just don't want to face you.
That matchup's not as insta-win as people tend to think, I believe. I
think the point is that the Warrior doesn't want to play for a long time to almost certainly lose, when they can just go and crush some noobs.
Well, if there's 0 Stone Test boards, which was a popular build in the Quest Rogue for a little while, the Warrior can actually win that game. if they have Ezelina against 0 stone test boards and they have a weapon removal and they save the weapon removal for after you transition to Valera, then you can't stack up a bunch of chargers because you don't have the weapons, so the deckhands are disabled and they don't run boar, and then the warrior can kind of fatigue them. You know, upwards of, I would say, over 40%. So there's like a reasonable chance you can win if they run no stone test boards. But if they run, you know, even just one copy of stone test board like we saw in the Quest Road game where Fino played against Purple, you can just clone a bunch of the same stone test board for the bursts.
PNC scares me when he does this. He does close really hard on the rope. Delay does it as well sometimes. Like misses things because they run so close to the end of the rope.
Yeah, and in this case, I don't think he missed too much, though. It seems
no, he got it done, but it's always scary.
Yeah, Bloody even just thinking about conceding.
I think we see it from PNC's side.
Oh, are we? Oh, it switched the turn, so I was like, maybe. Why is PNC thinking about conceding? Did he see the Soulfire maybe mouse over? The Spellbreaker is not enough. No Soulfire still from Bloody.
And next turn, the game changes a little bit.
Yeah, next turn, Soulfire is not good enough. But yeah, PNC is still going to need to find that vanish.
Yeah, he's got some things that needs to happen if he's going to win this, but Quest Rogue seems to buy the time so that the impossible sometimes happens.
Yeah.
I know that's not the definition of impossible. Don't hurt me on that one.
It's okay.
But all these are doing are getting in the way for now. The quest is still not complete despite all this bouncing around. Because he's had to bounce a variety of different things just to stay alive.
Yeah. What is he trying to complete the quest on at this point?
He's just trying not to die.
Right. Yeah, he has no actual plan at the moment, it looks like, to turn the tides and actually start the offense. He's just trying not to die at 1 here. So,
I mean, Novice Engineer, Vanish, Novice Engineer or something next turn.
Yeah.
And then
it all stems from finding the second Vanish. He needs the second Vanish.
I imagine the thinking here is mainly working out what his plan is. He's playing Valera here, unless he concedes every single time. And so his whole point is, what am I doing the turn after? Because it's an incredibly complicated turn. It's coming straight back to me because Bloody can't do anything next turn.
Yeah, he's just going to take, you know, the onboard trades, play whatever minion he can, and pass back. So you're not going to have any time to think during your opponent's turn. So using this time here very wisely.
Yeah, they even be thinking about not taking the onboard trades because the opponent's got a handful of minions anyway. But yeah, he might as well while they're there. And now he's got time to think about what he's going to do with his hand next turn. I mean, in some situations, the answer is he can't do anything. He has to play Novice Engineer. But
it does look like it might just boil down to that. But he's also thinking about, what if I top deck this? What if I top deck that? You know, hoodaloo-waddy. But it's going to be a small window of opportunity. This game looks like it's going for maybe 1 or 2 more turns at the maximum. It all depends on that draw.
Interesting to see how Bloody manages his hand size here as well, because there's a situation where he may need the double Soulfire win.
Okay, that's interesting.
You know, because his board's wide enough, it's going to do 6 damage anyway, easily enough.
So don't play the Doomguard, of course. Keep your hand size pretty large, so you could maybe Doomguard, Soulfire, Soulfire, Doomguard.
Yeah, just little things like that.
Now he has the Simulacrum, so he can find a bunch of cards and pretty much guaranteed get that burst damage that he's going to need.
Where were you 20 turns ago, Brewmaster?
Right. To be able to finish that last bouncer on the Glacial Shard or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Novice Engineer into Vanish feels like about the only out here.
He's got 2 tries at it.
Yeah.
And then...
and then you've done 3 minions like 5 different ways. Well done.
And then Bloody will probably respond with Doomguard and then fish for that Soulfire.
Yeah.
I hope you like my invention.
All right, go number 2. This needs to be Vanish, I think.
I hope you like my invention.
We're going to see the Vanish.
There's the Vanish.
There's some life here. Bloody could potentially get the Soulfire milled as well. Oh my.
And this now means that the quest is completable.
Right.
I mean, there's other things that need to happen, like you need to not take 6 damage. but,
yeah.
but we, baby steps.
And here comes the search for the lethal by playing the 2 cards that give him lethal.
Yeah, Fungalmancer does it anyway, yeah.
Yeah. If he discards the Fungalmancer, he can fish. If he doesn't discard the Fungalmancer, he's got it.
Yeah, and fishing, I mean, there must have been so many outs. There's another Doomguard, there's the 2 Soulfires. He's halfway through his deck.
Well, he needs the Soulfire, because he can't play the Doomguard alongside the Doomguard Simulacrum.
After tapping, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, Bloody gets it done, a 1-0 lead there. And as always, Questro just showing the resilience it has. If PNC picks up any bouncer early on, I mean, there aren't many bouncers in the deck anymore. There's Sonya, Zola, a couple of Brewmasters. It's not like the olden days where you had Gadgets and Ferryman and all that going on. But
he was close. Yeah, for having... He had no Shadow Steps, right?
Yeah.
And then no Preparations, which are some of the key cards that can make that matchup more winnable.
Yeah, because then you can actually respond after Vanish and not have them just put all their things back down.
Right. But, yeah, not able to complete the quest, able to find both the Vanishes, though. And that's why the matchup's so hard for the Quest Rogue. It needs the perfect storm of things. It needs the prep, it needs the bouncers, and it needs the double Vanish. And it's when you have so many conditions that need to be met for you to be able to win the game, it makes it hard to win, so it makes it a bad matchup for you.
2 decks left. What's PNC got remaining?
He's got the Tog Druid and he's got the Tempo Mage. So Tog Druid is what he's choosing to go combat the Zoo with, and I would say Tog Druid is unfavored against Zoo. So it's kind of a bummer for him. That's why I was saying, I was looking at his lineup and I was like,
how has he got here?
How did we get this far with how many Zoos and aggro decks exist in the current format? And
I think what happens, though, with this kind of lineup in a lot of matchups is if you have a series of 40%.
Right.
And if you win one, you have a series of, like, really, really good matchups.
Yeah, exactly. He only has the Zoo to cut his way through, but if he's able to take one of these unfavorables against Zoo, suddenly everything looks really pretty for him. But
yeah, if you don't take unfavorables because they're unfavorable, you go 5-2 instead of 7-0.
Yeah. Just seems like you need a better answer for Zoo in this format. It's a very fierce deck that's brought by... I don't know the exact numbers, but I want to say around half the competition has Zoo.
Yeah, the only reason I'd say that might be a bit high is because there's a lot of even lock.
Right. I think there's a lot more even lock at the top players than there is at the kind of middle ground sort of way, though. So we've seen a lot more even Warlock on stream than is representative of the true sample.
There's definitely a lot of Zoo here. I mean...
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about Zoo. What am I going to do about Zoo? Even if they haven't got Zoo.
Right.
It's almost a meta-defining deck, which is really weird because it's not a major part of ladder. It's a part of ladder.
It's a part of ladder,
face, obviously, but it's not like Druid.
I think you verse Zoo maybe 15% of your games on ladder, at least for me.
That's a big number. Okay.
It's a big number, yeah. Zoo's real. You obviously verse more Druids, I would say. You verse more Hunters.
But then Druid isn't a deck, it's a class. I guess that's also
right,
the point.
Exactly. There's like 3 or 4 different versions
Yeah,
of
you can't even define Druid anymore. It's just wild growth Druid.
The HS replay and the data trackers don't even know what the Druid decks are half the time either, because they have so many similar cards. So the stats on Druid are all wonky right now.
Yeah, when you die having played Wild Growth, Nourish, and an Arcane Tyrant, it's like, what was that?
Yeah, so, Druid, maybe.
Just Druid.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
No answer at the moment for PNC, and no ongoing answer at least in this board, meaning Spreading Plague.
He's going to coin Spellstone is what he's thinking about, which is going to mean he cannot coin Nourish, which is going to slow down his way to get to Ultimate Infestation. He's looking like he's setting up to be able to get the Twig going, and he's going to focus on trying to make the Twig happen. A little bit slower of a game plan, maybe?
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
It kind of makes sense when he has the double naturalizes to be able to kind of fend off things. So going for the slow route and trying to just get the Twig set up over the next 5 turns for that big tempo swing, it could work out for him. And the Twig does pretty good work setting up this Starfall, as long as there's no Fungalmancer on the side of Bloody.
Starfall's a decent card in a lot of matchups.
Yeah,
I always want to play Blood Mage Thalnos when I have Starfall, though. It draws me cards and it makes my Starfall good. In a meta where everything has 3 health.
Yeah, it's not terrible. He's got the Oaken Summons package in his Druid, actually, which is kind of unique. Typically speaking, in Togwaggle, a lot of players moved away from the Ironwood Golem Oaken Summons package. But he's kept it in there, staying pretty old school with this Togwaggle Druid, that's for sure.
PNC's not scared to play what he likes. I think it's been a feature of his play all year.
Sure.
Is sometimes he looks a little bit behind the meta, but he plays those decks so well that sometimes it's better to stick with what you're really good at than not play what you're kind of mediocre at until you're comfortable with the deck. I think too many players try to show off how versatile they are and then make mistakes because of it.
Right.
Even top pros sometimes fall into that trap, I feel.
I agree with you. I think a lot of players that brought Token Druid are uncomfortable in the Token Druid mirror, which is a matchup that's very, very difficult. And if you're going to bring Token Druid, you need to know how to play.
If you're going to play Hearthstone tournaments, you need to know how to play Hearthstone.
It's true. Some people are just like, no, this is the best deck, so I'm going to bring it. Well, if it's the best deck and you bring it and you happen to suck at it, it doesn't matter that it's the best deck.
Yeah, I used to bring Patron and just hope they'd ban it.
Really?
Like, they don't ban this, I'm so in trouble. And then one day they didn't. I'm like, next tournament I need to learn this deck. So I played hundreds of games. And
Sure. Yeah, I've seen metas where that's been the case. People did that with Raza Priest before because it's quote-unquote brain dead. People have done that with Quest Rogue before, the Cube Warlock meta when Shutterwalk Shaman was the thing. There's always been a meta where people can get away with not learning one deck and just bringing it and pretending they know how to play. And then word gets around eventually.
And suddenly it's unbanned every game.
Yeah, and then they're forced to have to play it, and then it gets kind of funny.
Yeah, you really have to trust your friends if you're bringing a deck you can't play.
Is the Starfall going to have to come out? Maybe he's going for the Nourish here with the Naturalizes. Something's going to happen pretty big. He needs a lot of time to swing this twig. He's committed to swinging it.
Yeah, and he needs a bit to happen in the meantime as well. It's not too bad, but, I mean, 20 mana turns are always decent. The UI is going to need to do its job.
He's going to need to find like a Plague or something. He has that Malfurion, which is pretty good. It's nowhere near as strong as a Plague, but it's definitely not bad. Bloody's hand is super weak at the moment. He was even thinking about trying to use Solarium here just to try and find Fungalmancer or a second Doomguard. Goes with a tap instead. That's insanely slow.
Worked out nicely, though, because now he's going to be able to play the Ghoul.
Yeah, it's decent, for sure.
Double Soulfire.
So many small minions in the field. If there is a Plague picked up from PNC, this game's going to change very dramatically. It's just Bloody's hand has not been, you know, cohesive to playing around a Plague at all. He's just gotten small, widespread minions. Yeah,
you do have to play this game with the cards you draw. Sometimes the rules go out the window. You just have to do what you can with what you got. How many cliches can I get into one sentence? I think I got them all in there.
9 light.
No Plague.
Oh, man. Dream Petal Florist and Azalina are both duds for the time being.
Starfall's getting nowhere near enough work done here.
It gets a lot of work done. Just
it works hard, but it still gets fired.
Yeah. Poor Starfall. Yeah. R.I.P.
Life is over.
Just couldn't quite get it done. Druid gaining armor. Seems to hang in there.
He's got 8 able to make it through.
Yeah.
There's no Void Ripper in the list.
This is more like even Shaman than Zoo at the moment. Just trial by slow creeping death.
He's able to get a Fungalmancer, he'd be 1 off. If he's able to Solarium into a Doomguard, he would be able to have the lethal. So there is potentially lethal on this turn off the Solarium if he wants to commit it. I'd like to see him use the Solarium.
Yeah, because this can go wrong in 2 turns' time if you're not going for this.
We need to start getting a board that's a little bit better against Plague. You need to find your Fungalmancers and your Pig Minions. And
that's not them.
Yeah, that's you don't like to see that at all, for sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him tap this turn.
Those are the turns that make you angry when you play 3 hours of ladder and like, it's all going against you.
Yeah, it really is not going well for him there.
PNC probably can't imagine what on earth's happening on the other side. It's like, why isn't bloody killing me? 2 games in a row, he's just played 1-1s and stuff.
Oh, there's the Doomguard. 1 card away. But yeah, this is how Bloody Zoo list is kind of built. It's a very light variation of Zoo. You know, you look at the top of the deck there, it's just Spellbreaker, Fungalmancer, and Doomguards. You know, there's no Despicable Dreadlords or anything like that.
Discards the Doomguard after trying so hard to find it. But does fire out the Soulfire late in the turn there.
The Plague stabilization is happening.
Oh, and it's not just stabilization, it's...
There's also the Starfall here. Bloody's hand used to be really, really thick, really full of resources.
And now it's Blood Knight.
Yeah. It's,
And PNC is about to jam 35 health onto the board.
He knows both Doom Guards are gone. He knows the Soulfire. At least one is gone.
Solarium's gone.
Solarium's gone. So there's really only 4 burst potential if there's no board for Bloody. So clearing the entire board except for the 1/1 might be ideal. But
means he can't attack with his twig, which is going to irritate him.
Yeah, I think Plague's better. I think Plague's better. It's worth worth thinking about the Starfall, sure, but yeah, the Plague. How does your opponent get through it? There's no Void Ripper. It's just done.
Death is eternal.
This animation.
Is not.
I don't complain about many animations, but this one takes forever. The only other one is the Soul of the Forest one.
Yeah, you know,
takes some time.
If you magnetic a missile launcher onto a Venomizer, that's a nice animation, and that one takes forever.
That sounds like a Firebat deck.
It makes me really happy how long and beautiful that animation is.
You just torture your poor opponent?
Yeah, as the missiles fly around poisoning things. It's really quite something special.
You been playing that deck on stream?
All the time.
Good, I'll watch that on the VOD later. Fast forward through the animations.
Still no Fungalmancer picked up, not even playing the Librarian to try and find it because he won't have the board space, right? So he ends up going for the Librarian. Not sure what he's looking for.
And PNC suddenly just in an okay spot.
What a strange game of Hearthstone. Bloody was like in a commanding position throughout the course of the whole game, but he was so far ahead with such small minions that he actually couldn't get the job done before Plague was found, even though Plague was nowhere to be seen for the first 3 turns of its availability. It's just, he just hit no powerhouses. He had the 1 Doom Guard to go face with, but there was no Fungalmancers and nothing to really close the game out.
And PNC's probably got 1 or 2 more turns where he needs to pay attention, just in case he does something silly, but this is over.
This is over, yeah. He gets to go, like, Ultimate Infestation, the face, break the twig, Starfall if he wants this turn, or he's going to go Oaken Summon, Starfall, break the twig, Ultimate Infestation. And that's going to be the end of the game.
Yeah.
Kind of like ultimating first because you could go break the twig, branching paths, Starfall for lethal, but this also probably wins you the game. You just kind of have to wait for a turn.
It's about now, I think, in DreamHack's round 8, where players do start to get a little bit weary. You know, yesterday was quite long. Today, we had a couple of long rounds, players sitting around waiting for games and stuff. It's about now where some ordering mistakes in guaranteed wins start to come in.
And now suddenly, like we said, this whole series is kind of flipped on its head. That one poor draw from Zoo, that one inability to close the game out in the favorable, and now that was Bloody's answer to Druid. Now he has Tempo Mage left, which is typically slightly unfavored versus Druid. More so now against this variation from PNC because it includes both Ferocious Howl and Oaken Summons, which is a large amount of healing. And then Tog Druid, I would say, is slightly favored against the versions of Token Druid.
So Bloody's got to decide what he wants to play against in potential game 5s as well as in his counter queue here.
Game 5 would be Tempo Mage that he would have to go up against. So he wants to, if he can, pair his Token Druid into the Tempo Mage. That would be more favorable for him. So we might see him go for the Tempo Mage against the Tog Druid.
Just because it's the game 5 would be better set up.
But still, it doesn't quite affect things all that much. The Token Druid is probably better odds of winning this game than the Tempo Mage is.
Yeah, this is an arguable matchup, I would say, until you play the Oaken Summons. And then suddenly the Druid's massive favour. I know you feel the Druid's favoured anyway, and I used to feel that way. But I've seen the Mage do a lot of good work against Druid. If he gets that Mana Worm start, which it does a lot of the time.
The Mana Worm start's scary.
But with that extra 6 healing and that extra blocking, it's like, that's so much more.
Still, the Mage has some game. Sometimes they can, you know, the Druids can get in a panic mode where they start removing everything that the Mage puts down, and then suddenly a Cosmic Anomaly sticks.
Or Luna sticks.
Yeah, and the game just is all over from there. Cosmic Anomaly is one of the heavy hitters in the matchup, and Druid really only has Spellstone and Swipe to remove things. It's not running Wrath. Wrath would be the card that I would say, even more so than Oaken Summons, turns this matchup around. Because it's not about the direct healing. It's about being able to remove the must-kill minions from your opponent.
And the Druid struggles to do that because Naturalize is really bad when your opponent's emptying their hand and firing it at your face all the time.
Exactly, yeah, and their cards are just much more efficient than yours are. So giving them extra cards is almost a death sentence.
Well, both players are going to be able to show us what their decks do because they've both got decent, at least, opening draws.
Yeah, that is a heck of a Mage draw. Wow, he's got the Oaken Summons. That's a heck of a Druid draw.
Right, they've both got all the stuff they wanted.
Oh yeah, literally everything. He's probably gonna have to coin Fireball the Ironwood Golem. Is that something you want to set up for? To set up to coin Fireball the Ironwood Golem, you'd probably want to play the Mana Addict this turn. Or the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah, you play Sorcerer's Apprentice and just not have to play the coin.
Not have the coin, right? So I think the Arcanologist is the worst play to set up for the Oaken Summons, but you know, they're not always going to Oaken Summons that turn, but it should have been something I think he should have thought about longer. I don't think that's the correct 2-drop to develop there.
I mentioned it yesterday, I'm going to mention it again. I'm still not sure that Mana Addict's the best 30th slot in this deck. I realize something has to be the worst card.
It's a favorable 30th card choice against Druid in particular. That would be where it shines the most, which is why we see it coming out here in LHS, because in LHS you get to counterpick your opponent, and the most common counterpick to Temple Mage is going to be that Druid. So then you choose the Mana Addict as the tech choice. But I agree with you, it's a fairly underwhelming card. You know, the numbers say it's pretty good, but the numbers are mainly APX Void playing Temple Mage, so, you know.
Yeah, so everything's going to be good.
Right.
I mean, we are talking about a deck that plays Arcane Missiles, and something is worse than that card. Obviously, Arcane Missile is actually quite good in this deck, but
it fits the beautiful combo. One of my favorite damage combos, or my combos in Hearthstone in general. It's this lethal combo called damage plus damage plus damage plus damage plus damage plus damage equals victory.
Yeah, it's like a 5 or 6 card combo.
Right. Eventually, if you have enough damage spells, it adds up to lethal, and that's why cards like Cinderstorm and Arcane Missiles turn out to be pretty acceptable in the deck.
Yeah, and Anomaly has made this a thing that you can do.
Yeah.
In the real world.
Anomaly is absurd. So the coin Fireball coming out, and we can see Bloody not being able to get... He's having to use the coin here. Since he didn't go with Sorcerer's Apprentice, he's not getting the benefit of maybe some Mana Addict buffs. So a little bit punished for his decision here, I'd say. Choosing how to develop the 2-drop under the board.
Luna would be a huge pickup if Bloody could get hold of that. With double Apprentice in hand, that can sometimes just give you a turn 8 that just goes absolutely crazy.
And then sometimes you also just set up your beautiful Luna turn and then immediately top deck, the Luna.
Is Bloody playing Pyroblast? That's a card that I always talk about in this deck.
No, there's no Pyroblast. Recently, an article came out on Reddit posted by some of the stats on HS Replay showing the top win rates of cards picked off Primordial Glyph. And off of Primordial Glyph, Pyroblast was dramatically ahead of all the other cards as high as...
Because you pick it when it wins you the game, and you don't otherwise.
That is probably true, yeah. So like, it's kind of interesting how some of those stats come out, but how to interpret them, of course.
Yeah, the danger of statistics, once again, from Lavinda and Firebat.
Yeah, if you interpret it as, oh, Pyroblast must be so good, why does no one play Pyroblast? They pick it off Glyph all the time. Well, they pick it off Glyph when it kills the opponent.
Yeah, and they don't any other time, pretty much.
That article showed that all 5 of the highest cards were just direct damage cards that they're picking because it wins them the game at that moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, we actually saw a really good Blizzard taken in one of the matches yesterday, which the board wasn't even menacing at the time. And suddenly, like 3 turns later or 2 turns later, it turned out this Blizzard clears up the defense that was available. And that was a much higher ratio pick, but it looked like it doesn't hurt the opponent. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
It's sometimes deceptive what the best pick could potentially be, especially when you look at win rate when selected.
But going all the way back for those few turns now, Bloody not being able to deal with taunts has been a big issue, and PNC is almost in the clear here. There are still some bits and pieces that can happen. Again, Luna is just terrifying. But that's about it now.
Luna still is a powerhouse of a card if he's able to find it. Not a lot going on for either side, though, at the moment, and it feels bad to have to develop that Sorcerer's Apprentice into a situation where it just dies to a hero power.
I think you might Cinderstorm 5 to face here. I don't think you ever win if that hits minions anyway.
You need it to kind of hit minions. You need it to do more. It needs to pair with this Cosmic Anomaly. So I support going for like the Secret or the Ping or the Glyph that turn. Something that, you know, doesn't use your burn yet, because 26 is a big number.
In that case, did you have to play the Apprentice? Could you have just Arcane Intellected and waited?
I wanted to wait with the Apprentice for sure. The Apprentice just dies on board. I don't want to play anything that just dies on board. I want to make my opponent have to work to remove my minions a little bit as a Temple Mage. You only got like 8 or 9 of them.
Like, if you're not playing Cinderstorm there and you're not playing Anomaly, then it feels to me like the Apprentice might as well wait.
Yeah,
you've used one already, you wait for a Luna turn, and...
It seems like a wasteful Apprentice for sure. It's not a super powerful use of resources. It's not like the 3 damage it's going to deal to the face is accomplishing too much when your opponent's life total is so high. Tempo Mage is typically strongest when it's able to build swing turns up.
Yeah. And that's after a Luneth or after Luna, one of those 2 cards.
And that's not a swing turn for Bloody. That was more of a 2 mana to deal 3 damage.
That's a dead Apprentice turn.
Yeah.
Second Apprentice as well, so there's no more huge Apprentice turns coming.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of gas going for him either way, but...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those situations where, it's not like calamity, but look at those few percent.
Right. The hardest games of Hearthstone to play are when you draw poorly, that's for sure.
Yeah.
When the decisions are not clear.
And the hardest turns are also to do nothing.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing throughout Hearthstone. The turn where a top player suddenly does nothing are often the most exciting.
Right.
I'm a thrilling guy, right?
I mean, it's true. Doing nothing is a very real part of the game, and being able to identify when you're supposed to do that is super crucial. And it could have been for Bloody there that he was supposed to save these resources, charge these glyphs, and then have a big tempo turn where he's able to combo the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Cinderstorm, both glyphs, all alongside the +2 spell power. Instead, he strung them out one at a time. They get picked off one at a time, and PNC sitting comfortably at 24. This would have been a resource he could have played alongside the +2 spell power. It just, it seems very... like too aggressive the way he's playing.
Because you're not dying anytime soon.
Right, he's under 0 pressure.
And just go, okay, I'm going to have one more hurrah in a few turns' time.
Luna's Pocket Galaxy is a fun one. Not really too many minions that it can hit that do too much. You can hit Stargazer Luna. That card's pretty good when it costs 1, as well as the rest of your deck. When it all costs 1, you cycle through your deck rather quickly. A Luneth would still be quite expensive, though.
Well, they were fairly expected results.
Not good, yeah. He's able to get that
another
2/1
card?
elemental, give him a random spell, maybe a Pyroblast can clean up some of that life total.
There'll be a Reddit thread saying how the best card that comes from...
It's always Pyroblast, man.
I don't want to play as Lena here. I've decided.
Yeah.
Thought about it long and hard.
No kidding.
And PNC is just getting out of range and going to find any old way to win.
Yeah, as soon as this Death Knight comes down, there's no way Bloody can win without, controlling the board. There's just too much health total to get through. It's going to be pretty tough to control the board when your opponent's this far ahead. He does have the Flame Strike, which could allow him to come back on the board at some point in the game, but it's going to be an uphill battle. He's going to have to win the board and then stick a board for, I would say, at least 3 turns to be able to get there.
I mean, there might not be 40 damage available in the deck otherwise, right? There just isn't that much.
There's not. He needs to get things to stick to the board. If he plays a Luneth, it's going to be against the clock here to find enough damage.
And again,
he's used a Fireball. He's used both glyphs. He's really only got a Frostbolt and 2 Frostbolts of Fireball left. So.
And now you'd love a Sorcerer's Apprentice and a couple of glyphs.
Right.
Just have that one last. I mean, it's still not. It's not a major league mistake. It's still probably going to lose the game even then, but the chance was there to have a scary turn with an anomaly and unexpected results and hit you in the face, and that has not happened because of how it was played. And PNC's capitalized on that in the best way possible.
Yeah, and now PNC has 0% chance to lose this game.
Yeah.
So coming up next, we're going to have to see what does...
Token Druid, I think?
Token Druid, yeah. See if the Token Druid can take down the Tonk Druid. The Token Druid from Bloody is... let's see here. It's a not a Violet Teacher build. It is the Giggling Inventor.
Oh, the newer one?
Strong Cell Scavenger build, yeah.
Floop build, I like to call it, because the Floop actually seems to be the key card in that deck. It looks like somebody looked at the deck and went, we're not playing Floop. The Floop is broken. How do we change it to make that happen?
Surprisingly, he's playing this variation of the Druid, but unless I'm going blind here, I'm not seeing the Floop.
There's a phrase you never thought you'd be saying live on air.
Yeah, exactly.
Just can't find the Floop.
I can't find the Floop. I see a one of Naturalize in place of where the Floop maybe would be. There's 2 Strong Cell Scavengers, the 2 copies of Giggling Inventor. It's like a Floopeless Floop Druid.
Interesting. So I can't call it that then.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you that the Floop is one of the reasons to play that deck. It is seemingly a very powerful card. I'm not sure.
And we've seen it just do well with Tyrant.
Yeah.
In the mirrors, just
it's so
here's a load of 0 mana cards.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of matchups. The 0 mana cards are very good in Hearthstone. It just allows you to swing tempo. And Hearthstone, at its core, is a very tempo game. Being able to be the one dictating trades, being able to be the one forcing your opponent to swerve one way or the other is the basis of how you win. So just kind of going through the motions here. 6 cards remaining for Bloody. He has 2 turns or so, 2.5 turns to win the game, dealing over 30 points of damage.
With no minions.
Well, he's got the Arcanologist.
Okay, with 1 minion.
With 1 2-attack minion.
I think PNC wins in 2 turns anyway because the naturalizers just get that
just
job
kill
done.
Him, yeah. There's just no hope. It's
It's a sad ending to the game.
It's really sad. It's just when you're just drawing yourself to death with a Lunith.
Yeah. No Medivh to save you anymore.
So here comes the Nourish to break the counter spell. And now the Naturalize can come down.
How get a bit of armor could have happened there.
Yeah, now we have to have... Bloody needs to kill PNC this turn, otherwise the Fatigue is going to kill him. He's going to be drawing the 3 cards from a Lunith and then his own cards. So take 1 from Fatigue, 2 from Fatigue, 3 from Fatigue, and he is at 5 life.
So, Cosmic Anomaly.
Yeah, there's no way that he hits
6 mana, and you've got to do 7 damage per card.
Yeah,
per mana.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
You're really getting into this caster thing, aren't you? It's going to be tough, meaning no chance.
Well,
this is not happening yet.
Oh, he spotted the lethal.
Oh,
it
nice
did
work.
happen. He found it. There's the way out.
Goes down in style.
Yeah. In a ball of fire.
2-1 to PNC. And I think we're getting a view as to how he got into this position. Like, get that win against the Zoo, scrape your way through somehow, and then the rest of the lineup just takes over.
Yeah, he just has a bunch of matchups that aren't too bad against Zoo.
Yeah, they're not fun. You gotta scrape.
Yeah, he's got to just win that one unfavorable, and if you win that one unfavorable, hey, you've opened up the door, and the rest of the series looks pretty bright for you. We can see Bloody does not look happy coming into this next game.
Yeah, being 2-1 down in your elimination match is probably a reason to not look happy.
It's not honestly that bad of a spot to be in. You have a slightly unfavorable and then a slightly favorable. So it really could go either way from this point. It's not too hard to be able to win this game. I imagine he wishes Floop was in his deck. That would probably help him out a little bit. But other than that, there's nothing too much to be sad about, I'd say.
Have you ever done any weird deck submissions where you've like just messed up and had to play without a card? Or
Oh, yeah. Do you remember there was a tournament a while back, one of the DreamHacks, I think it was Dak Rivius was playing Prince 3 with Stonehill Defender.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So it happens all the time where you forget a card or you just change one thing at the last minute and then you don't realize that it messes some other synergy up or what have you.
Yeah, Sottle played a No Secret decks with Mad Scientist one time.
Yeah.
That was fun. He made top 16 where he was allowed to change his deck at that point as well.
Oh, there you go. Bailed out.
Yeah, he changed, he got a new build like the night before, took out the secrets, and I think he's supposed to be in like Knife Juggler or something instead of the side, just forgot. So just had this 2-2 for 2 in his deck for the whole.
There you go. Some people, maybe they like to handicap themselves. Because that one tournament where Dak Rivius had
he won
Prince 3, yeah, he won with Prince 3 and Stonehill Defender in his deck. So like the Prince 3 was not active.
I think was it the Owl maybe actually?
Oh, it's the Owl, not the Stonehill Defender.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I think Zixo won one of the Chinese tournaments where he was playing Reno Lock in some wild event, and he left out the Reno, and the deck lists were open, but nobody. Who reads a Reno deck? You just look for the tech cards.
So nobody actually knew he wasn't playing Reno?
Yeah, he didn't himself until like round, like the final or something. Somebody went, hang on.
That's hilarious.
Because people would be just conceding, and no one had read the deck list, so they assume that Reno's coming in the next 3 or 4, and the game's over, and yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting. We'll probably watch PNC respect Floop this game, which would be kind of funny, because it's not there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't look for it straight away. You look for how many gigglings are there, how many...
Oh, no, yeah. I had to look at this for at least 20 minutes to see and finally admit that there's no Floop there. Like, it took me, my brain, a while to register it.
And these guys get like 7 minutes.
Oh, if that.
Yeah.
They're running from round to round.
You literally have time to scan through and just count Blood Knights.
Yeah. That's about it. Well, time to start building that twig. There is no weapon removal in Token Druid. It's very atypical for that to be there. Getting the twig rolling, it takes 5 turns to get there. The alternative option is to get the pressure of the Ironwood Golem on the field, but I don't think that's a very good play most of the time here. I think it's better to get the twig going.
Well, you can kill 2 wisps next turn this way and only 1 the other way, if you don't want to swipe, which you do.
Why wouldn't you want to swipe?
Yeah.
the reason of playing this, I guess, would be Chain Gang. It's a 1-of in Bloody's deck, so if the 1-of Chain Gang comes out, you have a nice clean trade into it. It is the standard kind of turn 4 play, but he's only running 1 Chain Gang. Maybe he doesn't value having the twig combo off.
Yeah, maybe not bothered about a turn 9 twig as opposed to a turn 10. Not much difference, but maybe not in a hurry until a little bit later.
Sure. If you hit some mana ramp, though,
yeah,
the twig timing works out. But yeah, I'm a little puzzled by that. He just really wants to get ahead on tempo, which is fair. I think both plays are pretty okay. I just tend to think that the twig play is a little bit stronger there. It is important in Druid games to be ahead of your opponent on tempo, though. Yes, for sure. If he didn't have the swipes, maybe I'd be more leaning towards this play, because then he could knock off some more wisps.
Then I'd have made a stronger case for what I was saying in the first place.
But he's got the swipes.
Time waits for no one.
You still always look after them, though.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to swipe if he makes 9 wisps. You're not going to take 2 of them down and just chill, but maybe if you can get something else on the board in a couple of turns' time, maybe then you do get out of that range. And actually, it's drawn Bloody into taking care of this minion, which it wasn't harming anyone. He was just chilling.
Yeah, can't even attack, but he's taking care of it-ish. He's setting up to remove it. He's setting up to go Nourish for crystals next turn. Hero power it down. It comes out now. But yeah, Bloody really respecting that minion there, making sure he takes care of business. But I mean, this fits into his game plan anyway. He wants to go with the Nourish for crystals. He's kind of just having the coin in his hand so that he could then go for the Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest a little bit later. Seems pretty fair.
Yeah, and a little bit later, it's pretty soon.
Right, so now he's going to be able to go Whispering Woods, Soul of the Forest, and PNC can respond with Plague, and then Bloody can go for Power of the Wild, Roar, Swipe on the following turn to be able to blow his way through the Spreading Plague.
And that's if PNC's even got a Plague.
Yeah, we see he doesn't even have the Plague, but that's Bloody's line of play there. He's saving the coin for that. He's got a plan set up. Really like the plan from Bloody. Really strong Token Druid plan.
And PNC smells the plan. Wanting more cards.
He's going to need...
There it is.
There's the card he wants. All right, armor time.
For the wild.
As much of that as you can possibly get, especially with 2 swipes in your hand. You know, that might just buy you the lifeline you need if you do have a slip-up at some point.
As this is still so powerful. Being able to go Whispering Woods, Soul and then still having an answer for Plague is absolutely absurd.
And that's what we see. And PNC shuffles a bit in his chair, like, yeah, got a Plague last term. I think PNC's experienced enough to know this isn't the end of everything.
Right. He has to expect that there's going to be some way to maybe beat the Plague. But at the end of the day, looking at all of his options, he's most likely going to end up playing the Plague. He doesn't really have a choice in the matter.
There's a choice in how many of these he kills, though.
I wonder.
Probably none.
Yeah, that seems a good number.
It seems like the number I would tend to lean towards, but what is the benefit of maybe knocking off one of these and triggering the Death Rattle?
I mean, you can kill the Death Rattle minion as well.
Okay.
Then there's one less minion on the board.
Yeah.
I watched too much delay, I think. The benefit of killing a minion is the opponent has one less minion.
Well, he doesn't have one less minion, though, because he turns into a 2/2, so he has one more.
Kill it with Spellstone.
Oh, you want to...
No, I don't want to. I'm just saying it's a thing of, you know.
Okay, yeah, it is an option.
It's something to look at.
I didn't even register that that was an option in my head.
Then you might have one extra 1/5 survive?
Maybe. Okay. I like it. I like where your head's at. You got to evaluate all.
I mean, if you're going to spend 75 seconds on every turn, you've got to be looking at those things. I'm not saying you're going to do them.
Sure. Yeah, and that's what he was thinking about right there, most certainly.
Also, working out the exact interaction he has with these swipes, which most of the time is going to be next turn. Swipe, swipe, kill everything after these are traded in.
Yeah, he's just hoping there's not this Power of the Wild.
Right, that's what he's not able to play around.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the X factor, and it's a one-of in Bloody's deck. It's one of the most powerful cards in Druid mirror matches for this reason. When you're playing the token Druid mirror matches, things like Power of the Wild, Tending Torrent, and Cenarius are some of the really high win rate cards because they allow you to buff the health of your minions.
Really minor point, but I don't like using the swipey top deck.
Why?
Because this play was something that was planned in advance.
Kind of.
And so there's a chance the PNC knows the other swipe's there anyway.
There's a chance.
I just don't like giving them your opponent the chance to have that read. I'm not saying it's an easy read.
It's still a tough read to make.
Yeah, it's really because you make that play anyway. But
they have to make that play kind of regardless.
I don't like using the right hand one unless you're on some sort of mega bluff for a strong player who might actually make the right read.
If I was in PNC shoes right there, I would say most likely he just has to go Whispering Soul because he's Toga Druid and that's what he has to do.
But just as a habit, I don't want to be doing that either. Not necessarily situational. Every time I don't want to be playing the right hand version of something.
It's true. It is generally the point that players try and, you know, not play the top deck thing if they've already set up a play which.
I mean, maybe it is a good bluff. Maybe it is a bluff that I don't have another swipe, therefore get PNC to make an accident.
It would have been a really good bluff if he like top decked the swipe and went, oh gosh, thank gosh. And
that's not how it works. Like those people who used to play them in open cups, and their zoo would be labelled like,
For no one.
I don't know. Even lock. Yeah, you'd be like, oh, this guy's playing zoo.
Yeah.
Because you just know that nobody leaves out the names unless they're bluffing.
That's true, yeah. He's trying to clean up as much as he can here. That does a pretty good job of it. Got the Twig active for next turn. It's powerful.
He killed it in the end anyway.
Yeah, it's true. He could have just used the spell on the previous turn. Would have missed a hero power, though.
Fair.
But, yeah, PNC able to clean up this pretty nicely.
But this is where this new build of the deck has got a little bit of extra oomph. Now it has the Gigglings and the Chain Gangs for further play. I think they have the Gigglings in places anyway, but the Chain Gang is a bit of a new addition. Yeah.
One thing to consider is maybe going for a Spreading Plague Chain Gang this turn so your opponent can't break the Twig off, play Azalina, take your Spreading Plague, play it. That's a play that Togwaggle Druid can do quite often that helps them a little bit in this matchup, is being able to steal your plagues and use them against you.
Seems like a thing a priest should do.
Yeah. Azalina's a really wacky card. But
well, double Tyrant is going to be a big deal.
He's afraid of maybe dying.
Yeah.
He's probably going to have to use the Twig this turn just to kind of sure up that he's not going to die, but he's going to double check how much damage is in play, what health. He gets to 26, he gets to remove 2, so there's still 6, 7, 8 in play amongst 5 bodies. So
also gets the Gem of Malfurion in the way if he wants to go that way.
Yeah, if he breaks the Twig. He's just trying to debate if he has to break the Twig off. And he's going to be dead to quite a few things if he doesn't break the Twig off. So it looks like he's drawing towards the Plague here with this line of play.
Okay.
1 of Plague in the deck, 5 chances at it. That's ambitious. Oh, he's also got the Starfall.
Yeah, we forgot about that from last game.
So now he had 2 things he was drawing for, either the Starfall or the Plague.
That makes a massive difference. Right. It sounds like only twice the chance, but it's not. It's just the way the cards function.
It's a lot better of a play when you factor in he's also got the Starfall.
Yeah, and look at this board swing now.
Just beautiful.
And it's where we talked about swing turns a minute ago. This is why the Twig is so good. The fact you can do all this in one go. If you did it over 2 turns, it wouldn't work. They'd be trading into you and keeping you out of the way.
Yep.
Maybe killing you.
Sure. No Soul of the Forest for this Plague. Yeah, Bloody just not hitting the finisher cards in his deck. He had the board for the longest time, couldn't find the Roars. He couldn't find the Ultimate Infestation to move through his deck fluidly. It's been unfortunate draws for Bloody. I really like how he set up the board. I really like how he played this game out, but this one, it just hasn't been doing him any favors.
Yeah, and
he's got some more life in this game still. He's got the Plague here, but
the thing is, when you start running out of cards as Token Druid, bad things happen because you don't get them back very easily.
Right, it's kind of a pain.
If you use your branching path and draw, then your win conditions start to fade.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw Nourishers as well already gone, so not a lot of card draws. We're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. 1 at a time.
And PNC is very safe now. He can kind of do whatever he wants. He can go for Malfurion, he can go for Ultimate. He could probably get down the Florist just fine here. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him, you know, go for one of those lines. I kind of quite like going for the Ultimate Infestation. You do mill a card because you're out of Tyrants. If that hits Togwaggle, maybe that's just too risky.
Branching to Path buff is kind of tempting, just it puts your things to 5, well, to 4.
Right.
And then you can use your hero power, maybe get a bit of armor or draw a card alongside it.
Yeah, he's got all sorts of good options, not under any pressure. Gonna end up going with just the Malfurion here. I'd like to see him go for Poison. I don't think the 1/5s are doing him any favors. He doesn't need the defense, so let's take the offense, in my opinion. They don't really get cleaned up too easily. You've seen both the swipes come out from your opponent.
Yeah.
But
he's fine just putting a taunt in the way for emergency purposes, I guess. I mean, he could have done about 7 different things here, and we just said that's fine.
They would all been fine, yeah.
He's found his route to victory that he likes the look of, and
it seems very defensive. He's probably setting up.
Well, he's setting up a branching pass for damage, maybe. So you want the bigger health, so the minions stick till next turn.
Sure. The aggressive branching path setup seems fine. Yeah, there's just so many different ways he could play that turn that were all just completely fine. He was just given a free turn from, you know, Bloody's hand just being so weak.
And now Bloody's drawn the UI, but it's looking a little bit too late. Well, a lot too late, in fairness.
Very too late, yeah. Like 4 turns too late.
And doesn't have the benefit of that twig, so no swing turn anyway. It's just a turn when you play a card.
Yeah, the twig is a heck of a card. When you're able to get that in your opening hand and just set it up, it does so much work. 10 extra mana is absurd.
Even, I mean, the worst thing it does is messes with your opponent. They have to play an ooze. They give you a couple of mana or 1 mana, and they play a 3/3 on their turn 7 or 8, which means they just don't have a good turn anyway. Even, and that's like the worst case, absolute disaster scenario.
Yeah. It's a very high variance card, though. If you get it in the late stages of the game, it's pretty garbage. On your turn 10, it really doesn't accomplish a lot then. So it's one of those cards that if you run it, you need to kind of draw it in your top 10. Otherwise, you're not playing it during the course of that game to that much of an effect, at least.
And I think that's probably why it took a while to get established in decks, because I talk about this a lot with high variance cards.
Right.
Players take a long time to assess them, even top players, because one player will go, oh, this card is amazing. Their friend will try it, and it'll be the bottom 10 5 times in a row, and they'll be like, no, I don't know why you play that rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. The higher variance on a card, I definitely agree. The harder it is to assess how strong it is, because you need a larger sample size to reduce that variance down to enough to get.
And you go to friends, but they're only a sample size of 1 because they've got their biased opinion based on their 20 games they played.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't get an average sample at all very easily. And that's when we've been a bit down on stat sites at times, but that's where stat sites do come in handy. You just go, okay, here's the data of all these games. It looks like it's probably good. And then you play your own games a bit more to make your own opinion more strengthened.
Right. It's like a top 3 mulligan win rate kind of card in Druid, which is saying something because the other ones are like Nourish and Wild Growth.
Yeah, which is 1 and 2 for sure.
Yeah, so it's like it's got some stiff competition in mulligan win rates, and it's able to hold its own. And that is maybe going to be it. He's got the coin Naturalize, but okay.
Sweet essence.
We'll see if PNC is able to find something. But I think Bloody's got a little more life going towards it. PNC is able to get a little bit closer towards maybe making this Togwaggle combo happen.
Yeah, PNC now needs to spend this turn picking a path. Unless there's a lethal. No,
he could go for the Roar. If he goes Azalina Roar, that would be 3, or there'd be 5, 10, 11, 12. It's almost there.
Well, that's fine then.
1 damage off of lethal if he goes Azalina Roar, which is always a fun play. You can kind of assume that there's maybe a Roar in Bloody's hand at this stage of the game.
But this is a turn where things, if they're going to go wrong, it'll be this turn. I don't think they are going to go wrong, but he needs to clearly lay out his roadmap to victory and what he's going to do for the rest of the game. Rather than just playing any old card here, he's actually got to plan 2 or 3 turns ahead.
Yeah, he's,
how do I lose? What do I want to win? Which condition of my many do I use?
We see him mousing over the decks here, looking at the cards. If he's going to try and go for the win condition of Togwaggle. Oh, it's going to go here. Togwaggle's a really interesting one because if he does end up saving Naturalizes, which not the case. And going for the ultimate, he could potentially burst for 15 at the end with just the taunt without having to switch decks. But he is going to go for the Azalina. He's very likely to get a Spreading Plague, which makes this kind of an appealing play, and then try and just fatigue his opponent with the addition of an extra Spreading Plague in his hand and the other defensive tools. So if you're ahead on board and play an Azalina and copy your opponent's hand, you're usually going to stay ahead on board.
Yeah.
Whatever they do, you can do the same thing right back to them, and it kind of keeps that equilibrium going, except you're at 32 health and they're at 4.
Yeah, you're attacking first and they're not. And
Exactly.
many other things.
So yeah, I really like this play from PNC. It does seem like it kind of checkmates Bloody. It puts him in a situation where there's not much he can do.
Yeah, Bloody's top deck card, the one that is different, is Wild Growth.
Yeah, that also is no help for him.
That doesn't help you break up this mirror hand. And it's so demoralizing when you've been Azalina like this, because you think, oh, do that. Oh, they can do that.
Yeah, exactly. You
It's
have all the
just
options
grim.
in front of you, so the game is technically solved at this point. You can figure out exactly the best play because you know every single card in your opponent's hand, which is very rare for Hearthstone. Typically, there's like, you know, a play that's good and a play that's pretty good, and it's hard to evaluate which one is the best between these two plays. But
so it's only factoring in the top decks that is a thing that breaks anything at all here. And there's not many top decks left because both players have very few cards in the entire deck.
yeah. So Spreading Plague is pretty live here for PNC if he wants to take it as a way to try and defend against this aggression. If Spreading Plague were to come out, what is Bloody's response to it is what he's got to be thinking. And not much.
The other thing we said, about Malfurion as well. Your hero power's better.
Yeah,
It's going to interject there. Everything's better.
the hero power is not better by as much as other Death Knights, which is kind of surprising when you really think about it, because it seems like 3 to 1 is so big, but the other one is actually 2. So it's actually only 3 to 2 in the variants of the hero powers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
But yeah, the Spreading Plague looks okay.
it looks pretty good.
My thoughts are plagued.
It's just the question of what is the plan that Bloody has if he does get Spreading Plague. He can roar and break through, maybe some. But if you go Plague Soul, then your opponent tries to break through, then you just respond with the roars and stuff afterwards. If you go Plague Soul, can they trade off enough to where that they can Plague you back, maybe, would be the fear?
I think PNC's problem here is he can't pick a win condition. Like, he's panicking because all the plays are good, but he can't pick which one actually finally breaks through. Am I trying to fatigue him? Am I trying to... What am I doing?
Yeah, just like Soul. I think he's just looking at all the options, making sure that he doesn't make any crucial mistakes here. He's worried about what Bloody is thinking because the Plague just looks so good that you're like, what is my opponent's plan here? What is his ace in the hole if I go for this line?
I predict PNC shakes his head in about 15 seconds' time.
Why?
Because he often does. After he looks at his... Yeah, there we go. There's the little sort of hand wave of... He often does. He evaluates his play in his opponent's turn and then sort of assesses if he did it right or wrong and then shakes his head because he always finds something slightly... Because he's thought about it for longer.
Right, yeah. You saw him there counting Savage Roar damage and things like that. They can see each other, so Bloody can see his fingers going up, pointing at things, counting stuff.
Although Bloody is deep in thought of his own, he's probably not seeing any of this, but you're right, it's definitely a giveaway from PNC here that what he's thinking about.
Have you ever been playing a card game against someone and just started counting random things? Yeah. Everyone, if you just start counting random numbers and just start counting things on your finger and looking around, everyone plays around lethal, like they just get so scared.
I love it.
They get terrified if you just start counting things on your fingers.
Yeah, or you just sort of put your cards on the table face down and you just sort of put your feet up and start yawning. It's like...
That's a good way to trick people. He's trying to, clean up as much as he can here. Maybe set up for in the future. If PNC kind of breaks through this, then there'll be just 2/2s left over, and then Bloody can then Plague on the 2/2s and pull ahead on the board here. It's kind of turned into a Token Druid mirror a little bit.
Yeah, except one of the players just has so much more of everything going their way.
Yeah, and potentially lethal.
He may have worked this out with that counting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say he's got lethal.
I'm pretty sure it's lethal. It seems like a lot of damage. There's 12 on the board.
Yeah, I can see it now. It's
minimum.
there.
Yeah, it's a little bit overkill there.
And PNC keeps his tournament alive once again, going 3-1 against Bloody. That puts him on 6-2. Bloody's decent run here in Montreal is at an end, but 5-3 is a very respectable run for somebody who does a lot of other things within Hearthstone apart from playing tournaments. So good to see Bloody doing this. It'd be like seeing Frodan playing in Austin, same sort of thing. But PNC once again is on the edge of getting into another top 16. It's been this sort of season for PNC. Lots of winning ins means you lose quite a lot of winning ins. Can't keep playing them, but he's got one more here.
Yeah, he's piloted the Togwaggle Druid quite brilliantly. You know, it's a deck that's kind of fallen out of favor in the metagame. Most people have switched away from Togwaggle Druid, but you were saying that it's probably his comfort pick. He likes staying behind the meta sometimes just because when he gets really comfortable with the deck, and we saw he seems really comfortable with that Togwaggle Druid.
Yeah, and I think that he likes to entertain himself with difficult decks like Quest Rogue as well. I was talking about this earlier with Purple, to keep themselves interested. Because if you lose interest, if you play Zoo, you go into autopilot and suddenly you start losing it. Someone like PNC is just like, I like to play difficult decks, keep myself awake.
Do people autopilot mid-tournament though? Like,
I mean, no, it's the thing you don't want to do. Yeah, but
okay.
if you're laddering all season long and you've not played any of a deck, you bring it to a tournament. So I think PNC likes to stay interested. Like you say, a little bit of a comfort pick, working out well for him. Somebody else who is working out well for this season has been Hunter Ace. You may have heard of this guy. We've also heard of Swids, who's been playing, I don't know, we keep talking about how the French players say how good Swids is. We've got them coming up in just a moment, so stay with us. We're going to take a break and then get those set up. We'll be right back.